Hi there, I'm Des.
And I'm Tim, and together Des and I head up the men's ministry Momentum Australia.
Momentum has multiple functions, but primarily our aim is to help men to succeed in life, to do life better.
We run a weekly radio show that goes all around Australia where we talk about anything and everything that relates to men.
And we encourage men to do life in community, to do life with other men where we can be accountable, we can be welcome, we can be open and honest about what's happening in our world.
We'd love you to have a look around our website. That's momentumaustralia.org. There you'll find a bunch of resources to help you on your journey and all of our previous episodes and topics.
We thank you for your interest in Momentum Australia, and we hope you enjoyed this video today.
All right, well, it is Momentum once again all around Australia. Really appreciate you tuning in. Thanks so much for doing that. And, Des and I, we're just so thrilled to do this every week, and hopefully you get something from this. Just a quick point to the website for a moment, momentumaustralia.org. Lots of stuff there that you can get your teeth into, find out a bit more about who we are. And, of course, the care line number is on there too. Des, if you want to launch in and just give us a bit of an idea about the care line, my friend.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's amazing. We actually have a support line to help men. It's all about helping men. And it's the Mountain Care Line is 1-800-000-MEN, which is 636. The service is provided by Careline Connections and their ministry in their own right. And you can reach out and get help 7 days a week between 9 a.m. and 11 p.m. The number again, 1-800-000-MEN, which is 636.
Awesome. Thank you. Now, hey, we at Momentum, we do exist. Our tagline is helping men succeed in life. And if you go back into the website, have a look at some of the podcasts, we cover a whole range of things. And, we get to speak to some incredible people. And last week we heard an amazing story of Sam Cawthorn, whose life changed forever in 2006. It was a major car accident, left him with an amputated right arm, a permanent disability in his leg.
Welcome, Sam.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me again.
It's an amazing story from last week. I mean, we talked about, your family. We talked about the importance of having people around you through trauma. And sort of you talked about your family and how that all impacted you and having a strong faith, and it was just an amazing story.
Sam is the CEO and founder of Speakers Institute and Speakers Tribe. He's an author of 11 books, including Bounce Forward and the follow-up How to Bounce Forward, and we're going to delve into that in this week's show. A bit about mindset this week. And Sam, if anyone listened to the show last week, and I'm sure they did, they'll know that you are just oozing positivity from the moment you awake, it seems. Just give us the reality. I mean, do you wake up like that? When the alarm goes off, do you spring out of bed?
Look, to be quite honest, I don't look at myself as being special or anything at all like that. I suppose I've just made the decision that I'm going to embrace life every day. Yeah. And yes, even though I live with a disability, there's nothing at all to complain about. I mean, look, this country is just a beautiful country. We've got a roof over our head. We've got a little bit of money in the wallet. We've got food in the fridge. I'm sure you've got loved ones around you like I do. And so for me, yeah, I just have this real deep sense of gratitude. I mean, what is there really to complain about? I'm just very grateful.
And you can always look on. I mean, it's always the two ways of looking at things, isn't there, Sam? You can look at all the negative things that may be around your world. And if you focus on that, that's where your life will be. Or you can look at the positive things and look at the positive things around you, like you've just mentioned, your kids and your wife and all those things. And they're not perfect, but boy, they're a lot to be grateful for.
Yeah, look, and I'm sure, there's certainly things that aren't perfect, and things don't always go according to plan. Things aren't always fair. Things don't always, happen exactly the way that you want them to. And many people are suffering from pain and frustration. And I don't know what goes on in anyone's world, really. But one thing I do know is that we are alive today for a reason and a purpose. There's still something that we need to do and achieve before we're taken from this earth. And so for me, I just want to make sure that I make my life count.
Sam, can I ask then, when you were in the rehab with your post-accident, and we said it was about 9 months in hospital, did that help sharpen the focus for you of what you wanted to do? Did that give you a greater determination to go, you know what, I nearly lost my life, but I still have it, and now I'm really going to make it count? Did that give you almost like an extra spring in your step, so to speak?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. Look, when I was working for the Australian government as a youth futurist, I went up to Cairns in Queensland beforehand, and I shared a little bit for about 10 minutes on stage, and it was at quite a large conference, about 500 people there, and just for that 10 minutes sharing on stage, I'm thinking, wow, this is a pretty cool experience. Me getting to speak in front of 500 people and everyone's eyeballs are on me, and I can get to inspire and encourage and even make them laugh. And it was really, really interesting. And I don't share this much, right? But after that, I'm thinking, wow, I wonder if I could actually do more of this. I wonder if I can speak more, right? And so then I went and shared this dream, if I may, with a really good friend of mine. And do you know what he said? He said, Sam, look, I see what you're saying, but you really need a really powerful story. You need something that's really big. In order for you to get that message out, you need something really big that's happened to you. And he said, Sam, you haven't really had anything major or anything big that's happened to you. Now, fast forward about 3 months later, I had a car accident, right?
Wow.
And so now I've got the story. And so it was really interesting. My entire rehabilitation team, this is the occupational therapists, physios, doctors, nurses, their entire focus for me, right, was to get me back to that same job. Get me back to that same working. I mean, that's their job. Their job is for someone now that's lived in a disability, now lives with a disability. Their job is to get them back to as close as they can to the life that they had before the accident. But the reality is something had changed. I mean, not only physically, I now live with an amputated right arm. I was a dominant right-hander and a physical disability to my right leg. My leg doesn't bend at all. But, I was no longer focused to be the person that I used to be. So something had changed, not only physically, but also emotionally, mentally, even spiritually. I was no longer the person that I used to be before my accident. So it's really interesting. A local youth group asked me to share my story. So still in a wheelchair, I went and shared my story. And then another, a school asked me to share my story, and everyone's talking about, he's the bounce back guy. Look how this guy, he bounced back from his car accident. He's bounced back from adversity. And for me, and I'm thinking, there's something fundamentally wrong with this term bounce back. Because if you think about it, we all have crises or tough times, etc. Then we have a bit of a downturn. Then we hit a place which is called, rock bottom. But I'm thinking it's not about bouncing from that moment and going back to where we've been. It's about bouncing from that moment, learning from it, and bouncing forward into what we can become.
Fabulous.
And needless to say, that was the title of Bounce Forward in 2013, your book, with the subheading, How to Turn Crisis into Success. So, I mean, you've kind of given us as an overview, but break that down for us about the book. What are the key things, I suppose, when you break that down, that inspire people to not bounce back, but bounce forward?
Yeah. And look, going back to what we were talking about earlier on, that everyone has trauma or has tough times in their life. And many of us have experienced, crises in a way. And for me, I believe we need to learn from these tough times. Have you heard you can learn the easy way, the hard way, the tragic way? Learn the easy way, learn from other people's mistakes.
Yes.
Learn the hard way, learn from your own mistakes. But don't ever go tragic, which is not learning from the either, where you do the same thing and you expect a different result, but you get the same result. Yeah. And so for me, it's more about learning from our previous tough times. Like I would even go as far as to say is, we're going through this tough time in our life right now for a reason and a purpose, so we can help other people get through what we've been through.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Now, I believe I believe in the power of story and narrative and being transparent in our own journeys. And so I would even go as far as to say is my story is no longer mine to own. My story is there to help other people get through what I've been through.
Yes.
Yeah. And so now, in a way, I've learned how to overcome a tough time in my life. So I'm going to help other people overcome their tough time. And so, if you've overcome something, then you've got a story, and that story needs to be shared with other people. And so that's really the fundamental foundation of bouncing forward. Bouncing forward isn't just for your own journey, but it's also helping other people get through what you've been through.
Yeah, and it's given you such a opportunity because of your positive attitude and the way you've gone through this to help thousands and thousands of people, through your books and through your public speaking and so forth, that you may never have had the opportunity to do. Who knows?
Yeah. Look. One of the first principle of bounce forward is actually called crisis creates opportunity.
Yeah.
Which basically means, what's really interesting, when we're in a like an issue, when we've got an issue or a burden or something that's annoying us, we tend to procrastinate dealing with it. We do. I know it's a bit of annoying, I know it's a bit of an issue, but I'll deal with it when I have time. But get this, when it's a crisis, our biology links so much pain to it that says I must get myself out of it. So in a way, it's not an issue that creates opportunity. It's not a problem that creates opportunity. It's a crisis that creates opportunity. So some of the greatest of inventions have started in the middle of a significant crisis. And it's very true. If we study throughout the history of time, some of the greatest of inventions were derived from a significant moment of crisis. So crisis creates opportunity. Sometimes we have to create a crisis if we want to actually see significant transformational change in something.
What does that mean in terms of creating a crisis? How would you define that? And last thing I need in my life is to create a crisis.
Yeah. Look, even go back to a journey that I shared last week. I shared about a journey, how my son, he just turned 14 years old. He's going through puberty and the like. And I saw that he was struggling in a way with navigating this new body and this new season that he's going through. But at the same time, I was going through one of the most significant business periods in my industry. So I'm more in the conference industry. I speak at conferences all around the world. Conference season is normally September, October. And so I had all these things all booked in, etc. And yes, I could see that my son was going through, and I'm thinking I need to spend more time with him, but I've got all this travel, and I know it's a bit of a problem, but I'm just going to procrastinate dealing with it, etc. But I actually decided that I needed to create a bit of crisis. So I said no to all this work. And that was a crisis for both our income and everything else. And so I created a crisis. And so I basically took 2 months off work. I rang up my son's school. I spoke to the principal, and I took my son walkabout in the most important season in his life. And so in most cases, if you want significant change in your life, you have to be willing to sacrifice.
Yes.
And a sacrifice doesn't come from a problem or an issue or a burden. It comes from creating a crisis in order for you to desire and need and must get that transformational change.
That's
wow.
Brilliant.
Let's just go on the other side of that, Sam, because I mean, I've often thought that comfort can be our biggest enemy, right? And when our lives get fairly comfortable, a lot of us may find ourselves in a space where we go, this isn't really what I was expecting, but it's okay. I've got a roof over my head, I can pay the bills. It's kind of like the lifestyle is pretty good, but it's not necessarily what I thought, or I still have this little niggle that I'm settling, and there's, I haven't really found the thing. Speaking to that space for the guys listening who, let's be honest, when we get a few years on the clock and we become a family, and, we're married and we've got the kids happening, and then we've got other commitments, and all of a sudden the dream or whatever, the thing that we thought, it kind of just gets put on the shelf for a little while, and we just settle into this space of comfort. if I create a crisis at this stage in my life, like that just doesn't affect me, that affects everybody. So how do they navigate that tension of, I feel like there's maybe more, but at the same time, I've got a real life and real bills and real commitments?
Yeah, with this little inkling that I think many of us have, and the inkling is there more, or there is more, or what about more opportunity, more possibility, more income, better relationships, better this, etc. We do get stuck in this, in this comfort place of security as well.
Yeah.
Me being an entrepreneur, I enjoy taking risks. And so for me, I don't mind taking, that short-term risk, that short-term pain for long-term gain. But I will share this with you. I truly believe that we need to be faithful with the small before the big will come. And to a certain extent, that being faithful, that little inkling that we have, that little agitation that we have, knowing that there is more for our life. Sometimes we actually need to run towards being faithful of where that voice has come from, as well as also, being faithful to what our true purpose and our destiny and the calling that we have in our life. And sometimes that comfort can be one of the greatest ways to hold on to the security that we have. But I believe, the more that I put my faith in my Creator, in Jesus, the more that I know that He will always provide for all my needs according to His riches and glory. So for me, I'm okay with taking significant risk in order for me to actually, step into that calling and the purpose that He has for me.
And that's a very strong biblical principle. They look after the small things, and the bigger things will look after themselves. I'm paraphrasing significantly there, but you get the message, and that's good.
Yeah,
really good advice.
Sam, I mean, you are incredibly positive. Everyone can hear that. If they listen to you for 10 seconds, they can hear that you just ooze positivity and just gratitude, I think is where that comes from, which we've talked about. But there are going to be people listening who, I suppose, consider themselves to be relatively positive, glass half full kind of people. There will be people listening who tend to be a bit less optimistic, maybe glass half empty. They struggle with the positivity kind of piece. From your experience, before we go on how we change that, where do you think that comes from? As in our general disposition, is it inherited? Is it the way that we've been brought up? Is it our character, our personality, a mix of all of the above? What are your thoughts on that?
Look, I genuinely believe it can be learned as well. Like, what we do know is that proximity is power. We are the average of our 5 closest friends. The company that we keep determine who we are. If you hang around with negative people, you'll end up to be more negative. If you hang around with positive people, you'll end up to be more positive. And so I want to be really, really mindful of where I put my attention. And this is everything from media, through to social media, through to humans, through to even the entertainment and the movies that I immerse myself in, and TV, and really anything at all on screen. So for me, I need to be really protective of where I put my time, my energy, my focus, because everything will then come out in what you're consuming. And so for me, it's about really protecting myself and being really wise who I lend my ear to. Be very cautious who gets my focus. And so for me, the more that you are mindful of this, the more that'll actually then flow out from you of what the intention is for your life. So for me, I hang around with positive people that inspire me to be better tomorrow. And so obviously then I then see that in my life as well. So, but don't get me wrong, we're the average of 5. So I can still go out there and coach to other people and inspire them and lift them up and bring happiness, positivity, and joy in their life. Yet at the same time, I need to hang out with those 3 people that actually bring that in me as well. And so be very wise who gets your focus and where you put your attention.
And again, that's a very sound Christian principle, in the sense that you guard your heart, and you guard who you listen to, guard who gives you advice. So it's a very sound principle. And I worry about folks who watch some stuff that's on TV, and it's so destructive and so violent and so forth. And maybe it's just because I'm old, but it does worry me that people are being influenced subliminally,
Yeah.
through negative stuff. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
It's really interesting. You can also take it a little bit too far as well. My parents, right, very, very full on religious people, and they wouldn't let us watch TV at all. And when they did, when we were teenagers, this is what we used to be allowed to watch. There were black and white golden oldies. Mum and Dad would already pre-watch it, and then whenever there's a kissing scene or the like, they had to fast forward it. And so they sort of believe, in a way, a lot of screens were of the devil. And so you can also take it a little bit too far. But also at the same time, I'm very mindful of what my kids watch. I'm very mindful, even what I consume. I mean, sometimes it might be cheesy, or I might enjoy it, or I might bring in a little bit of entertainment in my life. But I believe if you truly want to transform your attitude and the joy that is in your life, then be mindful what you consume. I think it's a very simple formula. If you don't have joy in your life, start watching and consuming more joyous things. If you don't have happiness and good relationships in your life, then start watching and consuming those type of moments, or hanging around with those type of people as well. So for me, you can't have your cake and eat it too, as they say.
Yeah, and I think that's amazing advice for all of us, and for men. Yeah, I think that's really, really cool advice. Be mindful of what you surround yourself with. Yeah.
Well, it's a simple yet basic principle, right? I mean, it's something that you can go, okay. And for me, look, with respect, I've stopped watching the news for the last few years because I just found that it was so bombarding into that space, and I found that it was quite depressing, to be honest. So I've stopped doing that. And I was a news junkie, being in radio for 20 years. It was like, well, I had to be on top of everything. So I was every station, watching all the broadcasts and the bulletins. The Bible says that bad company corrupts good character. So I mean, that's the scripture that we're linking to that. But before we move on from that, so Sam, this idea of watching what we're watching, et cetera, what we're ingesting into our life, that sorts of thing, that's all cool. But let's talk practically for people who really struggle with that. I mean, they can do that. It's practical things they can do throughout the day. We hear a lot of, in inverted commas, experts and motivational speakers talk about the importance of waking up and setting up your day, like your morning routine, how that can kickstart you for the day or not, depending on what you do. So the first thing I suppose I want to ask you is, do you have a morning routine? Is that something that you're mindful of to get yourself in that sort of headspace on a morning, or are you just so positive when you wake up that you just don't need to do that?
Wait a sec. I'm not a superhuman. I'm a normal, everyday bloke. I struggle in various areas. Look, with all my travel, it is quite difficult, significantly difficult for me to have a consistent daily routine. And so my routine is more of a mindset. Yes, obviously, I want to eat well, and I want to be, have good exercise and the like. And I have to keep my body quite physically healthy. I've got to keep my mind quite sharp as well. But in most cases, when I wake up in the morning, it's quite interesting. I always listen to worship music. So yes, my faith is such a significant part of my life, and even though my business is very much so in the marketplace, I am in the marketplace. I do get asked to speak in churches, and I do limit that a lot. My 95% of my work is completely in the marketplace, and at the same time, the influence that we carry is quite significant. I did 2 stages last year of over 100,000 people in the audience.
Wow.
And so for me, worship music is a significant part of my life, and so whenever I'm traveling at airports, I only listen to worship music. When I'm on planes, I don't really like talking to people next to me. I listen to worship music. When I'm in the shower, I'm listening to worship music, and I like having my finger on the pulse. So that's a subconscious thing that I'm always listening to all the time, and that positivity, that enlightenment, if you want to call it that I get from that, but also the depth of joy and inspiration that it brings me in order for me to be sharp in every situation is pivotal to my success.
So can I ask who's on your playlist at the moment?
I was just going to ask the same question.
So look, I like listening to all the hot, all the all the top 50 Christian songs all the time. I like listening to a lot of if I may, a lot of Chris Tomlin. I love listening to Anna Goldman. I love listening to Kane. I love listening. Oh, look, I can tell you some Passion Essentials, Hillsong stuff, like just anything at all.
Okay.
That is worship, Christian church music. That even though yes, I run a secular organization, that Christian fundamental foundation for me being a founder. We've got 5 companies. We've got over 80 staff. We've got facilitators and trainers all around the world. We're doing around 60, 70 events every month. It is tough. But yeah, having that fundamental foundation of worship music in my ear every day certainly helps me to perform.
Yeah. So just a quick question. You mentioned the church, and I'm curious, and it's a little off topic, but I am curious. You said that you don't tend to do much in the church. That seemed to be a conscious decision. Can I ask why?
Look, I used to be a youth pastor, and so everything was about church. Every single night of the week, I was serving at church. Every weekend, I was serving as well. And I did a very important season in my life where I was in church. However, my new season now is to go ye into the world. And so there's a lot of pastors and preachers out there that ask people to come to their building. There's a lot of people out there that only speak in churches and they ask the marketplace to come to them. But for me, it's more about going ye into the world. So for me, it's more about shining my light in where there is a lot of darkness. And so that's my calling. And I think we're all pieces, we're all the body. And so I know exactly where my calling is. My calling is in the marketplace. I'm very much so connected with coaches and speakers and trainers and large Fortune 100 companies all around the world. And that's my marketplace. And so for me, even though I can't necessarily preach on a big stage, last year I was, 2022, I was on stage with the Prime Minister of Australia. I was on stage with Michelle Obama. I was on stage, Simon Sinek and the like. And these are all fully secular conferences. I can't necessarily, preach the name of Jesus, but for me, it's not what I say, it's who I am. And every single time I get off stage, people come up to me and they say, "You're a Christian, aren't you?" and I say, "Absolutely." And they say, "Thank you so much for being in the marketplace." So for me, that's my calling. That's my season.
Awesome.
Who was it said, and it was some Greek philosopher, Christian philosopher, I think, who said, it's our obligation to preach the gospel, but if we have to use words, that's okay.
Yes.
It's very true.
Somebody said, preach the gospel and if necessary, use words. Yeah. That's good.
And that's what you're doing, and that's amazing. It's great.
So Sam, look, in the few moments that we've got left, let's just quickly wrap this up for the guys. We've been talking about mindset, and you mentioned obviously a key thing is watch who you're hanging around and watch what you're ingesting, essentially, the two things. But if you want to go a little deeper in a final spiel for the guys, if they listening, and to be honest, this is something that I've really struggled with over the years. I don't know if it's my English background or, my parenting from my parents who were quite negative, but I really struggle with maintaining a positive headspace. And for those people listening who might have similar struggles around that, aside from watching what we're ingesting and who we're hanging around, some practical, simple 2 or 3 tips that we can do on the day-to-day basis to try and keep ourselves in a positive headspace and bouncing forward, to revert back to your book.
If I may, I might actually talk about the word momentum. I love when I'm anticipating something in the future. I truly believe that the best is yet to come. I truly believe that our greatest days are ahead of us. And so if that's the case, if that's my fundamental belief that my best days are ahead, if my fundamental belief is I'm anticipating something exciting in the future, and whether it is a meaning marker, that's something I want to achieve this week, or something I'm looking forward to this month, or something in this quarter that we're going to do, that we're going to achieve, or the like, and then stay on that momentum, for me, it's not about then worrying about what happened yesterday, or the pain, or the struggles, or the scars that I've got from yesterday's world. For me, it's about staying focused on the destiny and the purpose and the future that I have in front of me. And that for me is what momentum is all about. What are we anticipating? What are those meaning markers that you're looking forward to this week? What's something that you're anticipating this month? What's something that you want to achieve this quarter, this year? And so for me, I'm so fascinated by the future. And I truly, truly believe that the best is yet to come, that our greatest days are ahead of us. And if we believe that, then there's got to be momentum every day. And if there's momentum every day, then you don't have time to worry about what happened yesterday, last week, last month, or the like. You're looking forward to the future. And so, you know, it's not just a cliche word, the best is yet to come. I actually, truly believe that my greatest days are ahead and the best is yet to come.
And look, on a cheesy note, you can have momentum every day. If you go to the website, momentumaustralia.org, it had to be done. Of course, you can check out the podcast too. If you put in Momentum Australia into your favorite podcast platform, you can have a dose of momentum every single day. You don't need to wait for the weekly show. But I'll tell you what, it's been an amazing couple of weeks with our special guest, Sam Cawthorn. Sam, you're infectious, and we've waited a long time to get you on the show. And I don't know, I'm excited just by what you've done in the last couple of weeks in our lives, and going, Des and I had a sense of excitement coming into 2023. I think that's just wrapped up another 100% in the last couple of weeks. But samcawthorn.com, if you'd like to check out his website. Sam, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show in the last couple of weeks, man. And we'll definitely endeavor to get you on later in the year. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, guys.
That's our absolute pleasure. God bless you.
Thank you for watching this week's show, and we hope you subscribe to Momentum so you can find out what's happening in the shows in the future.
Absolutely. And keep an eye on our website too. That's momentumaustralia.org. There you'll find all of our shows and a whole heap of resources to help you on your journey. That is momentumaustralia.org.
Until next time, keep moving forward
with momentum.